What is up, my friends? The weekend has officially started, and you are very welcome along to Friday night's late night agenda. I know you don't need a reminder, but the Reds are in action tomorrow, taking on Spurs at 5:30 down at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. We'll be live for our match coverage from 4:15 p.m. We'll be taking you right through the game. We'll have our match reaction, player ratings video, and we'll even have an episode of the Anfield Agenda podcast going out at about 9 or 10 o'clock. Tomorrow night's a busy day for us. Tonight, we're going to try and pick the bones out of the latest situation with Antoine Semenyo. We're going to be telling you about an apology that Mohamed Salah did make, albeit not to the manager. We'll also talk about some other players who've been linked with moves to and away from the Reds, and of course, whatever else you guys would like to discuss. This is your show. Appreciate you all giving up some of your weekend for a chat with me. Oh, I forgot to mention, there's a Brazilian wonder kid as well. And we'll be hearing a little bit more about Big Up in a while, so if you haven't entered our latest venture, do make sure to listen up later on while I talk you through the process of how you too can be in with a chance to win $25,000. I know, it's a lot of money, isn't it? I could deal with it, but I don't know if I'm allowed to enter it. Maybe I am. I actually don't know the answer to that one, but either way, you should all just give me the $25,000 if you win it. It would be the decent thing to do, really, wouldn't it? He says, trying to contain the smirk. So look, lads, there's loads to get through tonight. I'm not really sure where to kick off with, so let's go with the valuation of our football club, actually. A piece I'd seen earlier on from Forbes that said that Liverpool have the same valuation as the Detroit Lions and the Toronto Raptors, and are tied for 48th place in the world's most valuable sports teams rankings with a valuation of $5.4 billion. I feel like going full Dr. Evil with the $5.4 billion is what the Reds are now valued at. I think it's fair to say that is a marked improvement on the £300 million that FSG spent when they took over the club. Now, of course, they've done lots of work to the club since they've been in as well, but just goes to show you how far football club valuations on their own in particular have climbed. Right, this one first up from Zoshi. How are we, bro? Said Craig, who would you sign, GUEHI or Xhaka? I don't know enough about Xhaka, to be honest with you, so I'm going to say Marc Guéhi. I do believe that Marc Guéhi is a sensible option all around, and there's been a little bit more today that we'll speak about regarding Marc Guéhi, but yeah, for me, I think he's the sensible option, particularly in the January window, but it looks as if Crystal Palace won't want to lose him, but this is where I think that Oliver Glasner and Steve Parish are going to butt heads, because Parish isn't going to want to lose him for nothing in the summer. They've already had him for the first half of the season when they could have lost him at the end of the summer window. Steve Parish also hasn't got a commitment from his manager about whether he'll stay past the end of the season. So I just think it makes sense to go in and get Marc Guéhi in the January window. Lots of chatting about what Liverpool are going to prioritise in January, and of course tonight we're going to discuss the situation with Antoine Semenyo. Has just been varying different takes on where he's likely to go. We do have a poll running in the chat, just in case you haven't seen it. We're asking you who will Antoine Semenyo sign for in January? Liverpool, Manchester United, Manchester City, or nobody? Maybe you think he stays put. So do have a crack at that, and we will revisit in a while. Church bell's been ringing for the last hour. Something going on in the village. Probably another big cat sighting, said El Stew. There you go. Stay indoors, mate. Stay indoors. Be safe. Right, where do we go with? Let's talk about Isak, because Alexander Isak has been speaking about, well, his career, and this is what he's had to say. It's not the first time in my career that I've gone through a period like this or been in bad shape. That's how a football career works. It's just something you have to fight your way out of. And yes, you do, Alexander, and hopefully as quickly as possible, because, you know, we need him to get firing. Lots to talk about tonight with regards to our other striker as well, Hugo Ekitike, who's come in for even more praise, and we'll move on to that in a little while. So I mentioned that Mohamed Salah has issued an apology. Well, that wasn't to his manager that we're aware of, but it was to his teammates. Curtis Jones has told Sky Sports that Mohamed Salah apologised to his Liverpool teammates for his explosive interview and the squad is united behind the forward. Which is weird because they're united behind the forward, but yet, according to journalists, they're also united behind the manager. Can you be both? I don't know. He says this, I can only speak for me knowing Mo and how he is with us and how he acted on that. He was positive as well. He's the exact same Mo. He had a big smile on his face and everybody was exactly the same with him. I guess it's just part of wanting to be a winner and I don't think it will be the last. I get that there are certain ways you can go about things, but if a lad's fine to just be on the bench and he doesn't want to play and help the team, then I think that's more of an issue. And look, I gotta say, I want to give Curtis Jones massive respect because he has been speaking up a lot lately. He's been speaking about, obviously, what it means to him to be a Scouser in that Liverpool team. He's been speaking about how we weren't performing well enough. And I have to say, I've really admired hearing from him and liked what he's had to say over the past month or two. We'll have a little bit more from Curtis Jones in a while. I don't think Arna would say if an apology to him has been made or not. It wouldn't be appropriate in my opinion. The dressing room, yes, because it elevates the idea of the team being split. So the thing for me though, Christina, on that one is, we've heard a lot of stuff in the media, like I mentioned the other day. So we'd heard that there was a handshake between Arna and Mohamed Salah, but we never did hear about that apology. And quite frankly, I do think he owes him one. You know, and I'm not saying Mo doesn't have a point for some of the stuff he said, but when you speak out like that so publicly, I do think it's on you to then be, you know, I don't want to say the bigger man because he's just doing the right thing. I think he should apologise if he hasn't. Gigu said, as a United fan, I don't want us to sign Semenyo. I want a midfielder. I kind of had this debate, bro, with a fellow United fan like yourself last night, where he said that United have the money to sign Semenyo and the midfielder. And I said, I don't really think that is the case. I would agree with you. Manchester United, in my opinion, are crying out for a central midfielder, an Anderson, a Wharton. I know you guys have been interested in Carlos Baleba for quite a while as well. And for me, that is certainly the area where United have a concern. Now, I know Brian Mbeumo was going to the AFCON, as well as Mazraoui and I think one more player, if I'm not mistaken, from the United team. But yeah, you don't go into the market and sign somebody just because a player's at the AFCON. I know United have a long-held interest in Antoine Semenyo, but I thought when you signed Cunha, Sesko and Mbeumo in the summer that probably put paid to the interest in bringing in Antoine Semenyo. Right, Leo, I will get to your comment about the pundits in 1 second, mate. Just let me go through a couple of quick chats that have come in. David Sultana, as always, a pleasure, sir. Craig, would Semenyo be a good signing? He'd be a good signing, but I would have... I think the word good is probably the right word. Would he be a great signing? I don't know about that one. I can see wholeheartedly why Antoine Semenyo would be of interest to many Premier League clubs, us included. His ability to play on either flank, his ability to be naturally two-footed. I don't know, man. It just doesn't excite me as much as maybe it should. For what it's worth, though, David, I do think the price point for Antoine Semenyo is probably a realistic one. 60 million with 5 million in add-ons, depending, of course, on the structure of that. Which goes down to somewhere about 55 million in the summer. And also, if anybody is interested in signing Semenyo in January, they're going to have to do it inside the first 10 days of the window because that's when the release clause is active. Ahmad, yes, was the other one. Thank you, guys. It was Ahmad that was the other one that was heading away. George, how are we, bro? AJ versus Jake Paul predictions, an update on the table. I've got zero update on the table, mate. I have not got a clue where it is. I know it's somewhere at sea between China and Ireland. That's it. And on the AJ fight, look, I've said it all the way through. He's just got to go in there and knock him out. How it comes, when it comes, I don't know. But yeah, I can't see anything other than AJ knocking him out, mate. You know, it's just no other sane, rational answer to that other than an AJ knockout. I was looking earlier on, Sky have an enhanced price for AJ to do it in round 3 or 4. So I was flirting a little bit about having a little look at that, to be honest with you. But ultimately, I think he should be doing it in a round or two. It may be a round to feel out, maybe a round to get his range. But you would think that as soon as AJ connects properly, it's good night. Like, Craig, would you have Chiesa or Semenyo? It's kind of a redundant question, Mark, and I don't mean that to be rude to you, my friend. I mean, I'd say Semenyo. In all honesty, I'd probably say Semenyo. Um, Age would come into it. Injury record will come into it. The fact that it's been quite a while since Chiesa got opportunities to play week in and week out. So there's a lot in the negative column about Chiesa. Some of it not his fault, by the way. You know, we all agree that our manager should be playing him far more than he does. But, you know, if I had one or the other, yeah, look, I'd have to say Semenyo for a whole host of reasons. One, the two-footedness. Two, the age profile. And three, the fact that it's far more likely the manager would use him than he would Fede Chiesa. But like everybody else in the Liverpool fan base, I'm a big admirer of Chiesa. And I feel it's a very unfortunate, sad and frustrating situation that he isn't getting more game time. Here in Australia, they have Jake Paul to win at 99-1. Can't get that over here. I was looking at it earlier on. I think 16-1, maybe 22-1 were the highest odds that I'd seen on the few little sites I'd had a look at. But yeah, let's wait and see. So, ladies and gentlemen, I know some of you guys have already signed up to our competition with Big Up, and thank you if you have, but let me just talk you through it just in case you're new and you're wondering what this new logo and QR code in the bottom corner is. I'm going to play a quick video and talk you through our fantastic new partner. We're delighted to let you know that match days at Anfield Agenda are about to get even more exciting. I know you didn't think that was possible when I'm involved, but it is. We've teamed up with our friends at Big Up, a community platform where you can watch our stream and play an exciting new predictions game all at the same time. Simply put, predictions is a sweepstakes game where you can win some fantastic prizes, and there's even a free play option as well. For each Liverpool watch-along, we'll have a corresponding predictions game set up on Big Up. Simply download the Big Up iOS app or head over to bigup.com and select the Anfield Agenda versus Spurs watch-along. Once you do that, you just click on the Games tab as shown in the video on the screen, and you'll see a list of 6 yes or no questions like Hugo Ekitike will score a goal, to which of course I've answered yes. Simply answer between 2 and 6 of the questions and you're all set. The more questions you select, the bigger the potential prize. Once you've made your picks, just choose your entry amount and then decide if you'd like the power play option or the flex play option. In power play, you must get every single selection right to win a prize. However, in flex play, you can still win a prize even if one of your selections loses. Has to be a minimum though of 3 selections for flex play. Right now is a perfect time to join because our friends at Big Up have 2 fantastic promotions running. Once you enter your first competition, you'll automatically receive $5 or 500 big bucks that you can use for future games or to donate to your favourite content creator. Plus, and this is the really exciting part, anyone that enters into a prediction competition will be automatically entered into a lucky draw for a magnificent $25,000. Each prediction game entry counts as an entry into the draw. The more prediction games you enter, the more chance you have to win the lucky draw. The winner will be announced at the end of the month, and we look forward to making your match days more fun than ever. Of course, it is over 18s only, and we urge you to please game responsibly. Right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for that one. And like I said, thank you so much to everyone that's already joined the predictions over on Big Up as well. Right, I know I missed the super chat, so let's go with this one. The real Johnny Sin said, I'm actually really confident we smash Spurs tomorrow, lads. They're absolutely dog shit and have the second worst home record in the league. Easy one. Do you know what though, mate? It's the easy ones that make me nervous at the minute. But like you, I do think we should get the job done tomorrow against Spurs. Thomas Frank's under pressure, as I've mentioned all week. Spurs haven't had a great home record at home this season. And we've come into our own in recent weeks. Still not perfect, but unbeaten in 5, and I'll take that every day of the week. So yeah, I can see a victory. I went 2-1 in my prediction, but honestly, it could be a little bit bigger than that. But I do think we win. I really, really do. Do we actually believe Turkey isn't better than Wirtz right now? Yes, I do. And look, I can only speak for me, mate. I don't understand the nonsense around Cherky versus Wirtz. I just don't get it. I really, really don't. Cherky's had some decent moments, yes. And he will have those, because he's a decent footballer. But all said and done, I just don't see a world where when we talk about this in 6, 9, 12 months' time, we're not talking about the fact that Florian Wirtz is streets ahead. You know, if Cherky was all that, clubs would have been queuing up to throw money at the situation. And the only reason he ended up at Manchester City was because they couldn't get their first target, which was ... Florian Wirtz. So yeah, look, good player, but there's no way I'm ever gonna cede any ground that he's in any way as good as Florian Wirtz. I just don't think he is. Craig, I am convinced by Semenyo, and I hope we don't go and sign him for that money. Do you mean I'm not convinced by Semenyo? And I hope we don't go and sign him for that money. I actually think on the money side of it, you know, Premier League tested, homegrown, I think 60 plus 5 million in add-ons doesn't seem the most unrealistic amount at all, to be honest with you. Not 100% certain that he'd be the greatest fit for us, but he'd do a job. I just don't know. I don't feel confident we're going to sign an attacker in January. I really don't. I think it's far more likely we move for a defender. So, Ousmane Diomande, a name that's been linked with Crystal Palace, a name that's been linked with Liverpool. Well, he has signed a new deal at Sporting, and his new release clause will be worth 80 million euro. So what's that, about 71, 72 million pound? So that's probably put him out of the reckoning for the time being. Certainly, there's no way Crystal Palace would be going in there to look at him as a Mark A replacement. They wouldn't have that type of money to throw around, but that's probably another name now that we can scratch off the potential list. David said, Slot annoys me he doesn't play Chiesa. He annoys me as well, mate, over that. Yeah, and I've said it all season, as of many, many others. I just don't get it. I just don't understand why Chiesa hasn't got more game time. So let's talk for a minute about Curtis Jones. And I like this from Curtis, by the way. So earlier on, we gave you a little bit of what Curtis had to say about the situation with Mohamed Salah. Well, this, he's talking about himself. And he said, anybody who knows me knows that I hate to lose, whether it's card games, training games, it doesn't matter. Now, because I'm in the first team and I'm a Scouser, I've supported the team from a kid. I'm playing as a player, but as a fan at the same time. I know how much it affects the fans. It affects me the exact same way. I've got that extra on me that we cannot lose. I was angry, but it was a shock at the same time. It was positive to see how the lads all acted. They didn't blame Mo. They didn't blame the manager, didn't blame each other or anything like that. It was just taking it on ourselves. And like I've said, I've been nothing but impressed with Curtis Jones and how he's spoken in recent times, as well as, of course, how he's blossoming on the pitch. And, you know, I have him in my team to start ahead of McAllister this weekend. And, you know, I'd be interested to know whether you guys would agree. Lee, how are we, Lee? Lee said, Craig, do you think that Slot has a man management issue as future players like Rio, Elliott are wasted and current players like Salah are angry and he doesn't get the best out of Isak and Wirtz? It's really tough to know these things, Lee, from, you know, the outside, but different managers have different ways about them. I think there was a famous line attributed to Jurgen that was something along the line of, I'll be a player's friend, but I won't be their best friend. Because you have to be able to differentiate between you being the gaffer, but of course you also being able to empathise with the players and you know, be there with them. Do I think he has a man management issue? Yes, I do. But that's guessing from the outside. Like I've said, I'm not in that dressing room. He just doesn't strike me as somebody who puts an arm around a player. And especially when you look at some of the players like Rio. Let's look at Rio. There's no way I think that what he's done there is good man management in any way, shape, or form. Because what exactly has he done? He hasn't brought Rio on. He hasn't done anything, really, other than let him train with the first team and sit him on the bench week after week. Chiesa's situation, again, he says publicly, I like the man, I like the player, but then doesn't play him. The Salah situation is one that I don't think is unique to Arna. So I don't really think Arna caused in any way the situation with Mo. I think that's just the case of Mo not wanting to be on the bench. And it wouldn't matter if it was Jurgen, it wouldn't matter if it was the Egyptian national team coach, it wouldn't matter if it was Arne Slot. I think the same thing would have happened. Paul said, Curtis speaks like a true captain. Wirtz's class, just taking time to adjust into our system. He's almost there and he is the future of Liverpool, said David Lewis. Thank you, David. Right, let's get to, well, I was going to get to Didi Hamann, but I just seen FC Pitchside say, what's Didi Hamann smoking? So if you don't know what we're talking about, let me read this out to you because, yeah, Didi Hamann has a penchant for coming out with some strange takes. And this is right up there. So you might remember a few weeks ago, there was a piece we talked about where Didi Hamann was speaking and he said that I wouldn't be surprised if Liverpool looked to loan Florian Wirtz in January. But he's gone even more off the rails with this one. So speaking to Jeff Bet, he said, I think Liverpool will be okay financially, even without the Champions League, because they wouldn't have spent the money they did if they couldn't afford it. Liverpool haven't been big spenders before last summer and they tend to spend the money wisely. If Liverpool don't perform, then they won't be forced to sell. However, players like Isak and Wirtz may have their futures looked at if they aren't performing and the club aren't in the Champions League. I'm not sure Liverpool will sell anyone in January, but if things don't pick up for Alexander Isak come March or April, they'll probably have discussions to sell him to a club like Barcelona in the summer. There'll be plenty of takers for Isak because he's shown his ability at Newcastle. It's also largely depends on the form of Ekitike because if he continues to improve, it'll be a struggle for Isak to get games unless he's forced out wide. So there's a lot to unpack there from what Didi's had to say. I don't like that he's already talking about a possibility of us not getting in the Champions League because that shouldn't even be said out loud yet. We should be fully focused on making sure we do that. He then goes on to say that he'd be sold to a club like Barcelona, who one, don't have a pot to piss in, so I don't see where they're going to get the money to sign him. And two, he then goes on to say, because he's proved what he can do in the past. So if he's proved what he can do, and he could attract the interest of Barcelona, what's the problem at Liverpool? Is he saying the manager's the problem? Is he saying that Isak can't be bothered? Because I find the whole thing weird. For what it's worth, I am concerned about the Isak situation, but I'm also concerned about the plan for the recruits in the summer versus the almost, what's the word I'm looking for? Forced upon him solution that Arne's had to come to because we've got no wingers at the minute by moving to this 4-4-2 diamond that we've seen. But I'm just getting fed up with him talking about binning off players. It's just, I think it's weak talk. It's bullshit. And I'd like a former player to be a bit more optimistic about the futures. Like I said, in the past couple of months, he's talked about loaning out Wirtz in January because Liverpool might think they made a mistake. And now he's going on about Wirtz and Isak maybe being in trouble if Liverpool don't get to the Champions League and both could be off. Just give it a rest, mate. How about saying something about how Liverpool can get more from them? What Liverpool could do? This is what annoys me about some former players. And I bang on about this with Roy Keane quite a bit. When I hear a former player talk about the current squad or what's going on, I want them to be able to tell you and I the things that we don't know. The intricacies. The small things that they've seen that could help the player. That could help the manager acclimatise the player in. The movements that they've noticed. That's what I want from a former player who's given an opinion on a club. Not these stupid takes that, you know, could just as easily have come from any YouTuber. I just don't like it. I don't find it helpful at all. Isak just needs more full games to gel with the players. Look, he also needs to work a bit harder on the pitch. I mean, Isak. Um, it is a fair question to ask what was the plan when we signed him and Ekatike. Because when we started the season, we were only playing with one striker. So I still am a little bit confused as to was there a real plan, or did we want Isak? We got Ekatike, and then we brought in Isak anyway, and now we're kind of struggling to figure it out. Because if you brought in a striker who was, let's say, 30 million and a striker who was 125 million, you might think fair enough. The situation with the tragic pass of Diogo made the club have to act and bring in another striker. But we've gone out there and dropped in excess of £200 million on two high caliber strikers. So neither of them is ever going to be happy not being on the bench. Both of them are going to want to play. And right now, Hugo Ekatike is by far and away the one that's performing better. FC Pitside said, we fought the whole summer for Isak and Wirtz. I know. It's mad. Yeah, it's mad. But like I said, I also don't see the system that was made to get the best out of them. Like, we've seen Wirtz now play in, and I don't think I'm exaggerating to say 3 or 4 different positions already since he's come to Liverpool. Ekatike, he's the guy now. He's the hot hand. He's the guy who's got to be starting if you're playing with one centre forward. But let's see what he does tomorrow. Is he going to go with the same system? Is he going to go with Isak and Ekatike up top? Or is he going to tweak it again somehow? Keane said that sounded like a take for attention. So, just been a few times over the years. And look, I'd be a Didier Man fan, by the way. I would. He was one of my favourite players. But I felt like he had a bee in his bonnet about Jurgen when Jurgen was here. And I never understood his take about Wirtz. I thought that one just came completely out of nowhere and was just too reactionary. And for me to call someone reactionary, that's nuts. Yeah, it just feels weird. Dead Angel said, imagine if we got Alvarez instead. Look, I said all summer, mate, Julian Alvarez would be my number one striker target. But I've also, from what I'm aware of, he doesn't want to come back to the UK. I don't know if it's a cultural thing or whatever, but he left Manchester City and I don't think he's going to come back to English football. There's potential he goes to Barca in the future. But I just don't see him ever coming to back to the Prem. But I would have loved him in the summer. I really would. I think he was a perfect fit for Liverpool. There was one I missed a second ago. Where was it? Craig, are you still sticking to 2-1 tomorrow? I am, but it's difficult, Paul, without seeing the teammate. I think the 2-1 could be a 3-0. In all honesty, I erred on the side of caution with the score prediction because even though we're unbeaten in 5, I truly don't feel we've played all that great yet. So, didn't want to be too cocky about it. But if we show up and we have a shit together, I think that could be a fairly straightforward evening tomorrow. Now, Stuart Atwell's on VAR, so, watch out. Marius, how are you, sir? Said, hello, Craig. Hope you're doing well. Long time no see. Personally, I think Isak will get into form when he reaches full fitness, but when that is, I don't know. And please keep up the good work. Thank you, my friend. And I agree. I agree on Isak. Look, like I've said, I think the players we've signed are too good not to work. And we're now starting to see some shoots of positivity. Kirkes looks like he's finally starting to settle in a bit more and understand the role in which Arna wants him to play. Ekatike, speaks for himself how good he's been. Wirtz, like we said, we can see Wirtz now starting to pull the strings a little bit more. So we're really just waiting on Frimpong to get back, show us where he's best suited. We're waiting to really see how Georgie Mamberdas really gets on in the longer term. And then, of course, we're waiting for Isak to really step up. But of all of them, Isak's the only one for now that I have a little bit of concern about. But I also agree with our friend a moment ago who said, you know, he needs to get up to fitness. Biggie Mall said, a lot of folk in the media prefer to be edgy these days instead of just being insightful. It's all about sound bites and uproar. Yep. I've said it before. A lot of them are just shit YouTubers. And I've said this for years. Like, I remember a time where some of the pundits, and I don't want to say names out loud because I'm sure they weren't on their own, but I know some of the professional pundits who laughed at fan content and the idea of it when it came through. And now they've started doing watch-alongs and they've started becoming YouTubers, but they're not good at it. And they're not good at it because they don't have the freedom. And this is what I think so many of these guys that go into YouTube type content don't understand is the reason fan content is so appealing is the freedom behind it. We aren't told what we can and can't say. Well, most of us aren't told what we can and can't say. We don't have relationships to be mindful of with football clubs or media organisations. We shoot from the hip. We call it as we see it. People either agree with us or they don't, but either way, that's cool. I just get wound up when I see like some of these former players doing watch-alongs and stuff because honestly, it's dull as dishwater. And, you know, it's not realistic. What fan resonates with fan content is it's realistic with people, you know. Stargirl, how are you, my friend? Hope yourself and your dad are good. Most of the players have not been good, hence difficulty for the new players. Look how long it took for Dom to acclimatise. I've no worries about them. Yeah, that and of course, like we've said many times, it's a very, very strange situation and a unique situation that some of these guys walked into. You know, they walked into a football club where, yes, there was a lot of change, but there was also grieving going on for the passing of Diogo and his brother Andre. And that must have been a very, very, very difficult environment to try to acclimatise yourself at a new club in when, you know, you when you come into a new environment, whether you're in a new job, a football club or whatever, you know, you come in, you usually try and have a joke, you usually try and be lighthearted, and you kind of let people know what you're about. But it's hard to do that in an environment when, of course, people are grieving and stuff like that. You know, when do you crack a joke, you know? It must have been tough for them. So, yeah, I do think it's working through. And like you, Stargirl, I don't really have too many doubts about most of these guys coming good. So, do keep voting away in our poll. We're asking, who will Semenyo sign for in January? And the reason I'm asking this poll is because of a whole load of posts today that have basically come up with different answers. So Mark Douglas, I think writes for the I newspaper, said Liverpool have spoken to Semenyo about personal terms and to set out their plans for the player. But the priority appears to lie in strengthening their defence in January with Mark Gay top of their wish list. So that's one take on Semenyo. This coming from the exact same journalist, Mark Douglas. 4 clubs have now opened talks with Antoine Semenyo, but they have less than 3 weeks to complete a deal. But here's the part that you won't like, and here's the part that concerned me. According to Mark Douglas, he said Manchester United are now favourites in a crazy market. Manchester City, Spurs and Liverpool are all in with a shout. Then Jamie Jackson posted to say, Semenyo is a January target for Liverpool, Manchester City and United, but Jamie writes Liverpool are his first choice, then City. On top of that, there was Fabrizio Romano, who said Antoine Semenyo expected to move in January with £65 million release clause valid until around the 10th. Manchester United and Manchester City both called this week, pushing and indirect talks. Decision up to the player on his future. So it seems like our name is somewhat falling away in the race here. Or at least, Romano there mentioning both Manchester clubs by name and not really dropping Liverpool's name into that mix. Now, we did say both Manchester clubs contacted this week to find out, but yeah, I don't really have anything I can add on this one. All I know is, like I said a few weeks ago, that Liverpool are genuine admirers of Antoine Semenyo. But after that, there was a piece we talked about the other day. I think it was from Matt Thielen, if my memory's right, that basically said that Liverpool have Barcola as a potential alternative in case they do lose the race for Antoine Semenyo. That meme guy said, I'd skip Semenyo if it means Mark Guéhi in January because the centre-back should be prioritised. I agree, but we do still have a big elephant in the room, and it's not me for a change, that I want to talk about an attacker in January. But first, let me just mention this. Hey Craig, hope you're well excited for Spurs tomorrow. I am. I'm really excited. I've got a lovely day's work planned for tomorrow, and I genuinely mean that. So I've got the watch along, match reaction, player ratings video, and then we're straight into recording an episode of the podcast. Myself, Connor, and Chris will be getting that out tomorrow night as well. So yeah, really busy day tomorrow. I'm going to be working flat out for about 7 hours, but I wouldn't want it any other way, my man. I love it. I love match days. And again, thank you for being with us as a member for 8 months. Bangkok Scouts channel said, we don't need Semenyo. We have Chiesa and Frimpong who can play in the left and right flanks. But in theory, mate, no argument. But the problem is the manager. And look, he is the problem in this regard. Whatever else we think, whether you're pro Arna, anti Arna, in Arna, out Arna, he's the problem there. And he just is. So here's what we know, and here's what I mentioned a second ago. My big problem is this. Mohamed Salah is now off of the AFCON. Nothing we can do about that. Cody Gakpo is now injured. So that's another forward that's unavailable for the time being. The manager just simply doesn't want to play Federico Chiesa, and I'll take you back through what Lewis Steele said about that yesterday. We've seen no indication. I think Rio's gotten 12 minutes in the last 10 games. So right now, we have nobody. We've got 2 centre forwards, and that's all she wrote with regards to attackers. Now, again, we'll all say Chiesa. But deep down, do any of you really think Chiesa's going to get a fair shot? Even with the AFCON on. Because when Gakpo was injured, he didn't get a shot. When Salah was on the bench for 3 games, he didn't get a shot. So nothing makes me feel like anything's going to change in that regard. And that's why I think we're going to be in trouble. Because we're running out of options. Same at centre-back. If Gomez is injured and we still don't know the extent of his hamstring, we know Giovanni Leone's out, we've got 2 fit centre-backs. So this is what pisses me off about the manager. He's moaning about injuries and he's ignoring some players. It's yeah, like I keep saying, it's highly frustrating. Craig, are you likely to do a Christmas Day special? No, I won't be doing anything on Christmas Day, and most likely won't be doing anything the day after Christmas either. The reason being that obviously Liverpool don't play till the 27th, so the plan will be that there will be the preview for that game coming out on Christmas morning. But apart from that, myself and Connor decided that we're going to just take those 2 days off, spend time with our families, obviously, and we'll be back at it from then. So I'll be working every day between now and I'll work Christmas Eve as well. So I'll be working every day up until Christmas Day, but Christmas Day and what we call St. Stephen's Day, what you guys in the UK call Boxing Day, yeah, we won't be doing that on those days. Now, by the way, here are my picks for this week's Big Up, just in case you're wondering what I've gone with. So I picked 4 and I've gone straight for power play. And my 4 selections are this. Hugo Ekitike to score a goal. I've said yes, he will. Florian Wirtz to score a goal or have an assist. I've said yes, he will. Richarlison to score a goal or have an assist. I've gone for a big fat no on that one. And there will be over 2.5 goals in the match. I've gone for a yes. So I've staked my 500 big bucks and my $5 on that. And my prize, if indeed those come true, would be $37.50 or 3,750 big bucks. You think you can beat that? We'll see on the day, because there will be a leaderboard, and we'll see how good you are. FC Pitside said he'd rather play no winger for the entire season than play Fede. He could not wait to lose him against Plymouth and blame him. See, on that, and I want to go back to what Lewis Steele said yesterday, because I think this was pretty telling. So Lewis Steele writes this, and you may have been with us yesterday, you may not, so I'll read it back out. So he writes, from conversations I had in the last 10 days to 2 weeks, this is a deeper issue than Salah just being benched. Although Salah wouldn't ever say it, I don't think he was overly convinced by the summer business and how Florian Wirtz and Alexander Isak were being named as the players to carry Liverpool forward. The Frankfurt game away, Salah came off the bench late on and he could have squared it to Florian Wirtz, but he didn't. He looked frustrated at full time, and that was the night that all mention of Liverpool Football Club was removed from Mohamed Salah's Twitter profile. This wasn't something that happened like that, and the frustration was building. Now, that's really concerning if there's even a modicum of truth to that. Because what did Salah want us to do in the summer? Because I'm telling you, if I'm in that dressing room and I see Liverpool going out and signing Wirtz, Isak, Ekitike, Kirkes, Frimpong, I'm going to be absolutely buzzing at the quality of players coming in. And I'm going to be thinking, wow, Liverpool mean business. The club plan for us to go and win things. So I don't know what Salah may not have been convinced by. I really don't understand. Does he feel like maybe those signings indicated that he was going to be pushed to the side a bit? Well, respectfully, tough. Prove that you're still the guy. Do your talking on the pitch with your feet, as you have done through your career at Liverpool. I don't get it. Harry said, hey Craig, I'm working every day until Christmas Eve too, except it's in a pub. I also have a question. If Bruno Fernandes was available, assuming money isn't an issue, would you want him? Why or why not? Look, no is the answer, but let me say this. If we could rewind all the way back to when Manchester United signed Bruno Fernandes and Liverpool signed Bruno Fernandes, do I think I would like him? Yes, I do. I think Bruno Fernandes is one of those players that his antics wind you up something fierce if he's not in your team. He's one of those players that everybody will admit has talent and everybody will admit that he winds them up. But as a footballer, he's really good. And if he was a Liverpool player, I dare say we'd almost egg him on at times for some of his antics. But because he isn't, and because of the sheer frustration I felt watching him, no, would be my answer. But he is a damn good footballer. You know, he really is. Give him his credit there. He's a very good footballer. Who does the Christmas dinner in your house? Even when Mum was alive, Dad did it. What's your typical Christmas day? We both want and wish you the best. So if we were cooking it here, it would be me. I'd be cooking dinner because I find it relaxing. You know, I love cooking. That would be something that I'd happily do. But what we do almost every year is we go up to Sabrina's mum and dad's, and we spend the day up there, and they cook the dinner and stuff. So that's usually the routine. As the kids have gotten a little bit older, and we've all got a bit lazier, because, you know, my kids are probably as lazy as me, except my daughter. She's an early riser, but my son Lucas, he likes to sleep as much as I do. So as they've gotten older, we do the presents on Christmas Eve a lot of the time now. So then we'll get up and we'll, you know, have a chat Christmas morning, you know, have a cup of coffee, you know, probably eat some sweets, and then we'll drive up to Dublin to go to Sabrina's mum's and spend the day up there, and I'll probably come back then and watch NFL late on Christmas night. What's my all-time Liverpool 11 in the Premier League era? Oh God, let me have a try at this. This is always where I get in trouble, right? Because there is no right answer in these questions, mate. But I'm gonna have a go, Harris. So Alisson in goal, simple. That's boxed off. Right back, I've got to say Trent. So I'm gonna say Trent. Um, yeah, I'm gonna say Trent. Left back, Andy Robertson, easy. Centre back pairing, I'm gonna say Virgil van Dijk and Sami Hyypiä. In midfield, this is tricky. This is tricky. So I'm gonna say Steven Gerrard, Xavi Alonso, and Javier Mascherano. Although Fabinho's close, but I'm going to say Javier Mascherano. Up front, if we're playing with a three, I struggle here, lads, because I want all my three favourites in there. So how do I have a world where I get in Robbie Fowler, Luis Suarez, Fernando Torres? I want them all on my team, so I guess some poor fuckers having to play on the right, maybe Fowler on the left, and we can put Suarez to the middle. But yeah, that's probably it off the top of my head. I could give you variations of it, of course. Steve Finnan, honourable mention at right back as well. Um, like I said, in the middle of the park, we probably could have had another 5 or 6 names that could have came into the mix. Um, John Barnes, I think was in Premier League era, so he could have been on the left. You could have had Rushy, no Mo Salah in there. I mean, it's nearly an impossibility, to actually just come up with an 11, because supporting a club like we do, we've been blessed with great, great, great talents over the years. So, yeah, it's a near impossible task. El Stew said, Craig, you once said you named your boy after Leva. I named my four after watching what I was doing. They were conceived. They're called Rave Whiskey, Crystal Meth, and were Ami. Yeah, I did. I named my son after Lucas Leiva. I absolutely did. And yeah, I just look, Lucas Leiva was somebody I always greatly admired at Liverpool. Not because I think he's the greatest footballer to ever lace up a pair of boots, but I'm a big fan of people with a good attitude and a positive attitude and a non-defeatist attitude. And Lucas Leiva personified that. Craig, would you sack Slot if Xavi Alonso became available? So I wouldn't sack Arna now just because somebody else came available. If I was to say I want to sack Arna, it's because I still think I want to sack him, and it wouldn't relate to another manager becoming available. Um, I'm still not convinced by Slot. I think, like I said, 2 very welcome victories over the last week, 2 clean sheets as well. But he should be winning these next few games. We should be beating Spurs. We should be beating Wolves. We should be beating Leeds. So I think the next big, big test for Arnott is going to come when we go and play Arsenal. That's going to be an interesting one. I'm very intrigued to see how we get on. Oh, here's one for you that had me laughing earlier on. Apparently, poor old Arteta is starting to suffer a bit of burnout and may take a little break, when he's finished with Arsenal. It must be really fucking tiring for him being, second all the time. It must take a lot of energy to look up. He must have a creak in his neck, looking up the table just to see who finished ahead of him that year. But yeah, God bless him. Old Arteta choke needs a bit of a break. Keane said, Alisson, Finnan, Virgil, Hyypiä, Robbo, Gerrard, Mo, Xavi, Mane, Suarez, Fowler. Yeah, like I said, bro, we could sit here all day and we could probably name 3 great Liverpool 11s and they'd all have some credibility to them. I think Salah and VVD are definitely in everyone's Liverpool 11. Like I said, for me, I found it difficult because I loved Suarez, Fowler, and Fernando Torres, and I'd have to shoehorn them in somehow. But you're right, Salah should be in that list, but I just needed to get those three in attack, so I had to make an executive decision. Right, we are 12 votes away from 1,500 on this one, and then we'll call it. Because I want to ask you a question about Mark Gay after this poll's closed. So if you can't hit that vote button for me. We're saying, who will sign Semenyo in January? Liverpool, United, City, or nobody? I actually don't know. If I had to vote on this question, I really don't know what I'd vote. I'd be... Where would I vote? I'd probably edge the City at this point. If I had to push, I think they might try to move on Semenyo or somebody. But yeah, I'd probably edge with City. Right, so 54% of you guys have been optimists and think that Liverpool will be where Semenyo ends up. I just think with our other priority in January, it's got to be top priority to get a centre back. So, next one. So, one sec. So, blah, blah, blah. So, Mark Gay. Will we sign Gay in January? Yes, no, or we sign him in the summer? I really, 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 really don't think we can go through January without a centre back. Now, if they don't want Mark Gay and they're convinced they can get him in the summer, cool. But you still have to go get somebody in January. And I mean early doors January. And anything else, and anyone that tries to write anything, or any journalist that tries to in any way make out like it isn't an absolute bona fide necessity, they're deluded. And yeah, I don't even want to see it written. I don't want to see anybody, the Echo Boys or anybody, try to make any argument that Liverpool don't need a centre back, because it's absolute lunacy if we don't go and get one. Craig, what's your predictions for tomorrow? Scoreline, I went 2-1. Starting 11, I went Allison, Bradley, Canade, Virgil, Kirkes, Gravenberch, Soboslai, Jones, Wirtz, Isak, Ekitike. That was my best guess of the 11. Matthew said Schlotterbeck. I've not really heard much about us being genuinely interested in making that move. I've seen his name linked to us, but with Schlotterbeck, it genuinely, to me, feels like, and like I've said to you before, I have a lot of decent connections in Spain, a lot of decent connections in Germany, and my understanding would be if he does leave Dortmund, that Bayern would be more likely at this point for Nico Schlotterbeck. So how would you guys feel if we didn't bring in a centre back of some description in January? Because remember, not only are we short of numbers, but as we see here now, Friday, December the 19th, we don't know what's happening with Canade. So if we don't have Canade signed to a new deal, you know damn well you're about to see articles in Spain, articles in Italy, articles in Germany, and articles everywhere else talking about how Canade wants to go here, wants to go there, and he would be able to talk to them without Liverpool even needing to know and sign a pre-contract agreement. So there's that headache coming up as well in January if Canade hasn't sorted out his future. Stargirl said, Craig, Dad also thinks George Best was the greatest player to come out of Ireland. Well, it's pretty much impossible to disagree with that, in all honesty. Look, in fairness, your dad never seen me play, so I'll let that one slide. Nah, but look, who could I couldn't argue against that. Um, if I could push and say George Best came from Northern Ireland, I would say for me, um, I think the greatest players to come out of the Republic probably Liam Brady and Roy Keane, but my favourite and the one that's closest to my heart's always been Paul McGrath. Like I've said to you guys before, I love a flawed individual, and yeah, Paul McGrath is somebody who I think the world of. That game against Italy at the Giant Stadium, USA '94. I think he was 36 years of age, maybe at the time, and he was just an absolute colossus that day. I love Paul McGrath to bits. Martin said King Kenny was one of the most intelligent players to play the game. Rush was one of the deadliest strikers. Hansen, incredible centre back. Liverpool had lots of top class from the past. Oh, Mark. There was a lovely picture, bro, the other day. I'm not sure if you were with us on the stream. Former players had their Christmas meetup. And we were just saying on the nightlight, the talent in that photograph. I mean, I'm talking about King Kenny, Jockey, John Barnes, Aldo, Tomo. It was just like a who's who of wow. Like, yeah, it was a sheer some amount of medals and trophies in that group, in that former Christmas players photo. It was and also shout out once again to the Liverpool staff and players for going to Alderhay Children's Hospital, as they always, and Everton are great for this as well. Both clubs really are great in the local community. So I'm sure you guys seen some of the lovely photos of Arna Slot and the lads in there, meeting some of the kids and their families who are unfortunately going to be in hospital for Christmas. And these are the times of year I'm always incredibly proud of our football club, and many football clubs, up and down the country, all around the world, who do these things. It's brilliant. Bastoni is better than Gay, right? But Gay is gettable. Bastoni potentially not, mate. Look, I'd love Alessandro Bastoni. I think many of us would, but it just doesn't. It seems unlikely you'll get him out of Italy. If we don't get a centre back, then FSG shouldn't complain about not getting top four, which means sponsors and money. It's just, look, the whole thing just feels silly, that we left the Mark A deal that late in the window as well. I still can't quite get my head around it to this day that we let that go so late. Ozan Kabak and Ben Davies to return. Oh, Shay, no. Shay, I'm still scarred from that, bro. I'm still scarred. Oh, I want to say a little thank you, by the way. So yesterday I was telling you guys, and a few other days as well, about Adam Duffy, the youngster, and his twin brother, who were throwing our support behind the young MMA fighters, both of them local here in my town, both of them chosen to represent Ireland at the upcoming European Championships. And there's a GoFundMe that is up. The link is in the description of this video. And I want to say thank you, because I've seen and recognised some of your names already who have donated there. They need to raise €3,500 to get themselves and their coaches over, because believe it or not, even though they're representing Ireland, it's not a funded sport here in Ireland, so they've got to make their own way over. We donated €1,000 to kick it off. I'm also doing a night in one of the local pubs down here, where we're going to be raising money. We're going to be doing other initiatives to try and help them get there, because Adam is already a multiple European, national, world championship runner-up, and he is destined for the UFC. And today I gifted him another present. I got him a signed Ian Gary photograph that was framed, because, like I said, I want to keep this young guy's head focused on his training and do what he needs to do, because he's an incredibly focused young man. And anything, if you were thinking of sending me a super chat, go to the GoFundMe, make that small donation to that cause, because you know, I'm fiercely proud to be Irish. I'm fiercely proud of any Irish athletes that can make their way in the world. And I truly, truly, from the bottom of my heart, feel that Adam has every opportunity to be the next Irish star of MMA. I'm going to bring him on for an interview after Christmas, so you guys can get to meet him and see what he's about. But he was here at my house again today, and I was chatting with him. We're trying to get him set up as well with a nutritionist and a supplement supplier. So, you know, the young man works at the weekend labouring to try to raise money to make sure that he can continue to do what he does. Like, he's still in school doing his exams. Just an incredibly impressive young lad. Right, where are we at? Where was this one? Oh, who? Let's talk about a Brazilian wonder kid. We haven't talked about a Brazilian wonder kid in a while. So, actually, this one isn't the Brazilian wonder kid. This is another young lad that Liverpool are interested in. So, the Sheffield Star have said that Liverpool have made an offer in the mid-level six figures region for Sheffield Wednesday 17-year-old left-back Yisa Alao, spelled A-L-A-O, who's set to sign a professional deal with the Championship club. Dominic Szoboszlai has been voted your Standard Chartered Liverpool Player of the Month for November, the third time this year that Dom has received that award, and I think you'll all say very well deserved indeed. Here's a weird one for you. Chelsea boss Enzo Maresca is one of the leading contenders on Manchester City shortlist to replace Pep Guardiola when Guardiola leaves. Where's my Brazilian Wonder Kid story? Or was that yesterday? Am I losing the plot, lads? I'm forgetting what day it is. Yeah, I am. It was yesterday. So Liverpool are looking at Gremio wonder kid winger Gabriel Mech. I mentioned this yesterday. 17 years of age, previously being compared in style to Real Madrid's Vinicius Jr. and currently represents Brazil at the youth international level, and he's known for his ability to play on both flanks with ease. The kid from Gremio, yes, that's the one, my friend. That's the one. That is, would you guys agree with me that we seem to almost, we miss out on a lot of talent from South America, you know, the likes of Brazil, Argentina. I've been thinking back on some of the players who've come in to the Prem and Europe in recent years, and we really do seem to be lagging a little bit behind there. Like, we've often been linked with players and never then really seem to follow through. So I do hope that, I think if my memory's right, Batistuta, and I think he was the brother of Gabriel Batistuta, I think, was one of Liverpool's scouts in that region. But we really do seem to be lagging behind there. Like, obviously, Chelsea went and got Estevao. Yeah, we need to get our finger out and start getting some of these kids in quicker, if possible, and then not having to go and pay ridiculous money down the line for, I don't know, let's say the next great Brazilian thing. So Manchester United now have tabled a bid for that young defender from Sheffield Wednesday I was just talking about. Keane just sent this on to me. So Liverpool and Manchester United have both now tabled bids for that Sheffield Wednesday player, Yisa Alao, the young man I was mentioning a moment ago. Chris Wheeler just reporting that. And thank you to Keane for sending that on to me. We do. Was it to do work permits before? Yeah, we brought in that young guy, D'Souza, who ended up going on loans around Europe. But look at Estevao. He came straight in, no bother, playing with Chelsea straight away. And then there was the guy that came to West Ham from Palmeiras that we were linked with as well. He was managed to get straight in. Even back, if you think all the way back to Julian Alvarez, what was he like? 12 million, something like that from River Plate. So I feel like we've just missed out on some bargains over the years. Even, I know he hasn't worked out great, but Ezequiel Barco, that went to Brighton at one point, we were linked with him. Prem is different to La Liga. Who was the last young Brazilian who came to the Prem straight from Brazil and did well? Estevao. There you go. Straight away, there's your answer. Came in from Palmeiras straight into the Prem and is doing well. And Blaine said Kevin at Fulham as well. Another one that's come straight in and done well. Kybell said Gabriel Mech would be good for Liverpool. Excuse me. Oh, did you guys see that there was a darts player who was thrown out today for a failed drugs test? Honestly, think that's the first time in my life I remember a darts player failing a drugs test. And it kind of got me thinking, what was it? You know? Like, what would help you with darts? Ritalin? Some ADHD medication? Or was it a recreational drug? I know it ended up with Johnny Clayton getting a bye through to the next round, but yeah, that was a weird one. Couldn't believe it. Mark posted it in our Discord today, and yeah, mad. Keane said, to be fair, Kevin came from Shakhtar. Fair point, Keane. Fair point. If we're talking South American to the Prem, Julian Alvarez. Yeah, he came in, did really well when he came in as well. He feels like there's been a few players over the years that I think Liverpool missed out on, not just from South America, but that kind of have Liverpool written all over them. So Julian Alvarez, I've always said, would have been ideal under Jurgen Klopp. And then I also think that who's the other player I was about to say that would have been what's his face? Mickey van de Ven. I think he would have been perfect for us. Now I know he has injury problems, and you can't ignore that. But I remember we were linked with Van de Ven as well when George Schmadtke was with us, and I think George Schmadtke's son was working at Wolfsburg at that time. So that he feels like one that got away to me, Mickey van de Ven. What's happening with City cheating? I still don't know. None of us do. It's freaking feckin' fucking. It's ridiculous, mate. At this point, there's nothing I can say. Like I'm just fed up of it all with Manchester City. To be honest, I'm fed up of everybody having to pretend like there isn't the potential biggest cheating scandal in the history of English football. When everyone's there talking about how great Pep is and how great City are and Haaland this and blah, blah, blah. And I'm sitting here going, yeah, cheating. When are we going to talk about that? Because genuinely, imagine this was United or Liverpool. Hand on heart. Imagine this was Manchester United or Liverpool at the centre of this controversy. I don't think you'd fucking move for the amount of coverage that you'd be getting daily on it. Jakey, thank you so much, bro. That's incredibly generous of you, mate, and incredibly kind. Just doing my annual Christmas donation. I don't get to watch live much, so you won't recognise my name, but I hope you know that the hours of content you provide is massively appreciated by myself. Love, mate, Jake. Thank you so much, Jake. Yeah, man. I'm always blown away by people's kindness like that, mate. And thank you. Thank you so much. I've always said I don't know what I've done to deserve the support the channel has, but I'm always going to be eternally grateful for it and always going to continue to try my best to represent you guys well. Supposed to have been told November. I reckon Pep leaves this summer when the outcome was revealed. Ollie, deep down, mate, that's what I've always thought as well. I thought that if Manchester... I know Pep Guardiola's come out and said that if they're found guilty, even if they're relegated, he'd stay, but I'm not believing that bollocks for 1 second. I think that's his get out as well. Al Stew said, Craig, it's corrupt, mate. City and the likes are valuable to the Prem worldwide. If it was Forest or Everton, they'd be in League One. They've got hammered for far less. But here's the thing, right? I've thought about that, Stu. But there's 19 other owners. And there's 19 other owners that don't really have an interest in City being successful. They have an interest in the Premier League being a powerful league, which it is, and the most watched in the world. But I can't for 1 second believe that Liverpool's owners, United's owners, Arsenal's owners aren't all fed up with this shit and aren't just waiting and waiting and waiting anxiously for that outcome. Because ultimately, they're an oil-rich Wigan. That's how I describe Manchester City. Just an oil-rich Wigan. Simple as that. David Lewis said, "We've got a week off after the Spurs match. What am I going to do? It's not fair. A week with the mother-in-law. Oh, joy." Do you know what? I must be one of the only people in the world who gets on great with their mother-in-law. Yeah. I get on really well with the in-laws. Genuinely, like, really, really well. Very fortunate. They've been incredibly supportive of myself and Sabrina. Incredible grandparents to both of our kids. Yeah. I don't know. I must be very lucky. My mother-in-law's sound. But I don't like that week off, David. I'm with you on that one, mate. I don't like the week off. It's yeah, it feels weird because we're so used to this being the busiest time of the year, and now we've basically got one game a week for the next 2 weeks. It just feels strange, doesn't it? Harry said my parents get on well with the in-laws. Um, well, my dad was never. Oh, actually, no, my dad did meet Sabrina's mum and dad before he died. My mum, my mum was just better best not say anything on that one. To be fair, from my view, Craig, they're gonna drag this. I don't expect anything to come out just because giving Man City a very strict ruling will just damage business for the Premier League. But there's so many layers to this, mate, right? Because it's also going to be open season for potential litigation, whatever happens with Manchester City. And I'm not talking about from Manchester City or the Premier League. I'm talking about from the other clubs in the Premier League. And if you do look at the charges, there's almost no way they can be cleared of all of them. Like, it almost seems an impossibility because some of them are so blatantly open and shut that it feels like if they get off, even if they got off 80% of them, if you look at the way the Premier League have penalised others who've had financial breaches or whatever with points deductions, they've set a rod for their own back of something between 5 and 10 points per sanctioning issue. So, like I said, I don't know. I don't know how it works out, but I do know that the play is and always has been to desensitize people to it. And it's the same in any of these types of things. You drag it out, you drag it out, you drag it out. People become tired of it. People become desensitized by it. But in City's case, and this is the part, if you take one thing from what I'm saying, remember this. City might be a big established super club now, but they weren't when this was started. They were at the start of their process of getting to where they are. And it's how they got from there to where they are now that's the fucking problem. And if that is found, then everything else is corrupted to that point, in my opinion. So we can't desensitize ourselves to think of City as now the club with Haaland, that had De Bruyne, that had Sergio Aguero. We have to ask how they got from the club that had Mark Hughes as a manager and was bringing the likes of Robinho and stuff, and then all of a sudden got to this point. The shenanigans that were at play there are the reasons, and that I don't think should be forgotten. Well, I know we're all split, by the way, on what people want to happen if they got stripped of anything. I personally have always been of the mindset of I don't want any of the trophies if they get taken off them. And for one simple reason, actually two simple reasons. One, we've been denied that celebration. And two, I want the history books to show that nobody was awarded the title in that season. There to be a big asterisk there, and at the bottom of the page to say that Manchester City were stripped of the title because they cheated. And I want that to be in the fucking history books forever. Rather than us getting handed a league title that none of us had a chance to celebrate. The players didn't have a chance. United would have been due a couple, I think, as well. Arsenal may have been due a title. And people might say, but I want that, and I want it because of X, Y, and Z. And I totally appreciate that. And I'm not saying my answer is right. But that's just how I've always felt about it. It feels shallow and hollow at this point. So I wouldn't want them. From Man City going from Pep to Maresca is a downgrade in my opinion, because Pep's one of the best managers in the world. In my opinion, Man City are going to have a downfall. I think it's pretty much impossible for them not to. And it would be the same at any club, to be fair. You know, it's going to be impossible for any manager to walk into the dressing room and take Guardiola's place. Simple as that. Even with a great squad, it'll be impossible. Because he is, who he is. And the saddest part in this for me is that potentially, if City are proven to have been cheated, one of the greatest footballing minds of all time, his reputation will be tainted by that. And people will say, look, Craig, Pep might not have known. Pep was just going about his job and it doesn't reflect on him. I'm not that naive. I don't think for one fucking second that when Pep puts his head on his pillow at night, that it hasn't crossed his mind on a few occasions, is this all legit? Is this all above board? Has this all been done the right way? So what? I don't buy into that aspect of, oh, poor old Pep is just collateral damage. I don't buy that for 1 second. Evening, Craig. Can't wait to finally see the click. Wirtz, Hugo, Isak and Dom. They're our future. This will be a new chapter of Liverpool. Hopefully, they will click, yeah. But I'm interested to see what happens when Arna gets wingers back. So when Cody Gakpo's fit again, when Salah returns from the AFCON, will he revert, or is this now the new normal for us with the way that he's been setting the team up? Silver Bear said, I read yesterday that the 3-judge panel have confirmed further delays and that it's unlikely to make a decision before the season ends. And to add to that, mate, even after the ruling comes out, the odds are it's going to be appealed again by either side. So when it comes out, it won't be over. This is still going to drag on probably another 12 to 18 months after that. And it's ultimately damaging the Premier League. It's damaging the Premier League's standing in the world. Nay said, if you were in young Rio's shoes, would you request a loan deal? That's a really good question, mate. I'd certainly be asking the manager why I've not really been getting any game time, particularly because he hasn't brought in anybody else there. So I think it would be fair of Rio to say, why am I getting more minutes? And if the manager answered anything like, because you're still progressing, then I think we as fans have an even bigger question is, well, then why the fuck did we not replace Luis Diaz? If you knew this was going to be a season where Rio wasn't fully ready. Such a tough one, because in one sense, I can understand the coach wanting to be the one that molds with and works with this particular talent, but I don't think he's doing that. I don't think he is trying to mold Rio into the attacker he wants him to be in our system, because he's just not giving him minutes. And you can't progress without minutes. You just can't. all the training with the first team is great, but you can't replicate minutes. They tell us fans that all the time. And Rio ain't getting minutes. He's not getting it at any level. And I don't know how anybody can think that that's good for him. So something should give in January. Whether it's a commitment that he's going to get more game time or whether it is a loan, I don't know. But something has to give. Itachi said, for me, I don't need wingers anymore for this squad. And I can totally understand that. Like I've said before, mate, if this is the new normal, I think the width could be provided by the energetic fullbacks. And I would also go a step further and say, and I think you'll know where I'm coming from, the system that we currently play with a 4-4-2 diamond isn't a million miles away from getting a couple more centre-backs in and reverting to a back three. You know, I could see a world where that then becomes the next natural progression. Something Arne said a few weeks back stuck in my head, and he said that to change to a system like a 3-5-2, it's going to be a big change for the players because most of them have played this system all their careers, some variation of the 4-3-3. So if he did that in stages by going to a 4-4-2 diamond and then shifting it to a 3-5-2 in the summer when he has a full pre-season, I can see a world where that happens as well. Raging Narwhal said, did Slot expect more of Chiesa this season and then decided he wasn't good enough? Well, let me read you through again a very interesting piece from Lewis Steele on that yesterday, because this was damning of Arne Slot, in my opinion. Where is it? Let me just get the right portion of my notes open on this one. Yeah, so Lewis Steele wrote this about Federico Chiesa, and this is beyond petty and bullshit from Arne. So he said, Slot, wouldn't mind me saying it, just doesn't seem like he trusts Chiesa. That's just a guess that I got because I know when they lost at Plymouth, Slot was furious with Chiesa. He was one of the senior players on that day, and he just didn't seem to perform. A few people have said how frustrated Slot was. I just think what Chiesa has to do to prove to Arne that he deserves a chance, because if you lose in every game, you can't get a game. Then you sort of think that maybe he doesn't like him at all. It seems to me like Chiesa could come off the bench and score every week and Slot still wouldn't play him. Can anybody really argue with any of that he said? Because to hold Federico Chiesa seemingly solely responsible for that performance against Plymouth is all kinds of unfair. Because one, he was out there with a much changed team as he himself was still gaining fitness. And to then be thrown under the bus and ignored by the manager. And the really galling part in all of this for me is that he could have moved him on in the summer. But he didn't. And he still doesn't play him. Remember in the summer when we went to Japan and Hong Kong, and there was a discrepancy in the reporting of why Chiesa was left at home. I believe it was Romano and a few others who said Chiesa didn't travel because he's going to find a new team. And then James Pearce had to toe out the old company line of he has a knock. Bullshit, he had a knock. Come on. He was left behind because they wanted him to find a new club. And then it didn't happen. And now another half a year of Chiesa's career has been just wasted by Arne not using him. And then our manager has the goddamn cheek to say to a room full of journalists, I like him as a man, I like him as a player. How can he say that with a straight face? Right, so we still have a poll running. Will we sign Mark A in January? Yes, no, or we sign him in the summer? Right, what have we got left on tonight's stream? We have about half an hour or so left. So any questions you guys do have, please throw them in. That's crazy blaming Kaiser for that game, shed trait. Especially when it's not like he had a whole lot of minutes before that, mate, you know? I want to talk about something that Thierry Henry said because I think he's absolutely spot on. So Thierry Henry, speaking for his Betway column, was asked for a player that's impressed them, basically, and a signing that's impressed them this season. And he said, I'll go with Hugo Ekitike because at the beginning, he had to prove that he could be at Liverpool, and he did. Now, the club is struggling, and he's still delivering. He surprised me. I knew he had it in his locker, but I didn't know it was going to be that quick in terms of how he adapted. Of course, it's easier to adapt when a team is rolling, but he adapted and then went on the bench, didn't say anything, came back and still scores goals. So you have to put him up there. He's not wrong. It's been absolutely magnificent to see how much not only Hugo Ekitike settled into the team, but how he's ingratiated himself to the Liverpool culture. I love it, and I think Ekitike has been a breath of fresh air since coming in. Craig, you know I don't blow smoke. We disagree often, but this is the best Liverpool channel because of its interactivity and how you are, just like us, mate, a fan. Love it. Thank you, Stu. Look, it's not for me to say where we are in the list of Liverpool channels, but what I will say is this has been an incredible year for us, and it's been borne out in numbers. And I'm going to read out some of those numbers to you. So let me see if I can drag this one out. I'm going to show you this. One sec. So this is the top 10 performing football fan channels on YouTube in 2025. And as you'll see on the list, we're third. Top of it is the United Stand with a whopping 282 million views. Second is AFTV with 151. Then comes Anfield Agenda with nearly 94 million views, and will hit 100 million before the end of the year. And what makes this all the more impressive for us is, if you look at the top two channels, they both have in excess of 1.8 to 2 million upward subscribers. And there we are, the third most watched football fan channel for English football clubs in the world. And in the last month, we were second. We absolutely trounced AFTV by about 5 million views in the last 30 days. And that's only because of your incredible support. So like I said, it ain't for me to say where we are or aren't with regards to who's best and who isn't best. But what I can say is our numbers are undeniable. And anybody who wants to continue to kind of make out like we're irrelevant or anything, you know, numbers don't lie. And we only got there because of you. Because, you know, I don't do anything special. I come on here and I talk. But you guys are what keeps coming back to me in the feedback. Your community, the kindness, the interactivity between each other and yourself. So for whatever reason we've gotten to this point, I want to thank you all again. Because year on year, we keep going in the right direction. And I never believed that we'd get 1 million. I never believed we'd get 1 million subscribers. But I'm starting to think it might be possible. So yeah, I don't know what else to say, but I don't deserve it. I don't feel worthy of it, but I'm incredibly grateful for it. And fingers crossed for a good 2026 as well, because I've got about 3 to 5 years left in me at this, and that's the time to try to chase down 1 million subscribers. So with your help and with a bit of luck along the way, you never know. You never know. But thank you for all you do for us, and thank you for allowing us to live our dreams, because that's what I'm doing right now. I'm living a dream. Craig, do you think Slot starts Gakpo when he's back? I personally think he does, because he's obsessed with him for some reason. Gary Neville said something that is absolutely on the money, and I want to read it out to you. I said it yesterday. So Gary Neville was saying this about Mo Salah. Salah will not sit down and watch Gakpo play football. These players don't sit and watch players that are inferior. Can any of us as Liverpool fans really argue with that statement? Because that's what's happening. You know, we can all have our own take on whether we think Salah should have been dropped or not, or how long he should have been out of the team for. But there is fairness to say that there have been other players that have not been performing that aren't getting held to the same standard. And Cody Gakpo is one of those players. So, yeah, that's why I just keep saying I don't think this Salah situation's over yet. I think there's more drama to come. Itachi said, feels good to be here, Craig. Thank you, man. Appreciate you. Thank you. Again, thank you for your ongoing incredible support, dude. So, have you entered our big up predictions yet? Because don't forget, we'll be starting it for tomorrow. Tomorrow's the first game where Big Up will become part of our matchday content. We're dual streaming on both Big Up and here on YouTube. And if you'd like to take part, I will walk you through it in a moment. But don't forget, it's going to be part of every match day moving forward now, where we're going to have the predictions competition. We're going to dual stream on YouTube and on Big Up. And again, Big Up will give us lots of other bits and pieces that we'll be able to have some fun with you guys over the next while. But don't worry, all of our content is still going to be here on YouTube. But let me just walk you through really quickly one more time the predictions league and exactly what it's all about. We've teamed up with our friends at Big Up, a community platform where you can watch our stream and play an exciting new predictions game. Simply put, predictions is a sweepstakes game where you can win some fantastic prizes, and there's even a free-to-play option. Each individual Liverpool watch-along will have a corresponding predictions game set up on Big Up. Simply download the Big Up iOS app or head over to bigup.com and select the Anfield Agenda Spurs watch-along. Once you do that, just click on the Games tab as shown in the video, and you'll get to see a list of 6 yes or no questions like Hugo Ekitike will score a goal, to which I've answered yes. Simply answer between 2 and 6 of the questions and you're all set. The more questions you select, the bigger your potential prize. Once you've made your picks, just choose your entry amount and then decide if you'd like to play Power Play or the Flex Play option. In Power Play, you must win every single one of your selections. You must get them all correct to win a prize. In Flex Play, you can still win a prize even if one of your selections loses, but you must have a minimum of 3 selections. Right now is the perfect time to join because our friends at Big Up have 2 incredible promotions running. Once you enter your first prediction game, you'll automatically receive $5 or 500 big bucks that you can use for future games or to donate to your favourite creator, Anfield Agenda. Plus, anybody that enters the prediction competition will also be automatically entered into a lucky draw for an incredible $25,000. Each prediction game entry counts as one entry into the draw. The more prediction games you enter, the more chances you have to win the lucky draw. The draw winner will be announced at the end of December, and we look forward to making your match days more fun than ever. Remember, always play responsibly and over 18s only for this one, ladies and gents. And again, let's see who comes out on top of that one tomorrow. Big Red Scouser says, gambling advert. No, sir, it is not a gambling product. It is a sweepstakes product. It is a very different product and licensed as such. So, yes, I know there will always be questions. And if there are any questions that you do have on anything that we work with or hear, please do make sure that you ask me. I'm here to answer and help out in any way that I can. Sorry for this, but Jake Paul just said to the BBC in an interview that he'll be the king of boxing and the face of boxing if he wins and shocks the world. No, he won't be, because he won't. But I said this about Jake Paul. Fair play. It takes an incredible set of balls to get in there and do it. I wouldn't get in the ring with AJ for any amount of money. Kaz said, the more I hear about Slot, the less I like him. He is starting to fall into the slimy, sneaky, nasty little man category, and to have him point out and blame individual squad players is unprofessional. I just find it frustrating with some of the stuff I see and hear from Arna. But ultimately, I want Liverpool to win games of football. And I'm very grateful to be a Liverpool fan, having gone through 5 games without a loss. Because one of the questions that I kept asking myself when we were in that terrible, terrible run is, when have we hit rock bottom? Is this it? Is it going to get worse from here? And I'm still not convinced, because I do think there are still major flaws in our performances. But, if we can get back up towards that top 4, keep chugging away in the Champions League. We know we've got Barnsley at home in the FA Cup third round. But I think he got off way too lightly with I think he got off way, way, way too lightly with the whole League Cup thing. I really think he got off too easy with that one. He threw away a perfectly good chance to win a trophy when we were one win, a home game, 1 win away from a quarter-final. And look, I would have loved to have seen Liverpool play last night or Tuesday in the quarter-final of the League Cup, knowing that then we've a 2-legged semi-final of potential for fans to head to Wembley again. It just feels incomprehensible to me after the window we had that he did that. Craig, can I have a talk with you off air, please? I need to know what that's about, with due respect, mate. So if you want to email us, contact@AnfieldAgenda.com, contact@AnfieldAgenda.com. Let us know what it is that you'd like to have a chat about, and if we can make it happen, sir, we'll make it happen. I hope you understand where I'm coming from. Like, I don't know. I don't know you from Adam, mate, and with the year I've had, and the threats against my family and stuff like that, I have to have an extra layer of protection in between me. Craig, Baleba or Mainu? Baleba. Yeah, Baleba. I like Carlos Baleba. The Kobe Mania one is an interesting one. Did you hear what Amarim said? He basically said some of the youth players at United almost have a sense of entitlement. And I do think Mainu's brother leaning on the advertising boards with free Kobe Mainu t-shirt was just arsehole level stuff. Like, I'd put that up there with Trent's brother and that level of stupidity and snidiness. It just doesn't help anybody. Itachi said, man, we signed Florian Wirtz and Alexander Isak. Still, I'm a happy guy. As am I, bro. As am I. I still can't believe we actually got Wirtz. Really. I never, ever, ever for 1 second thought we were going to get Wirtz when our name was being bandied about. Even, do you remember the day where it was put out there that City were the favourites to get a signature? And then within 24 hours, City had backed away, citing the escalating costs of the deal, where really the truth came out that he had met with Liverpool and that he wanted to come to Liverpool. So that one still feels crazy. John, how are you, John? Said, thanks to whomever gifted me a membership. Much appreciated. 3-1 tomorrow and up the Reds. And thank you, John. Very kind of you, mate. I'll take a 3-1 tomorrow, mate. Absolutely. L Stews there with Jake Paul. I can't stand many YouTubers. Only pay membership to this one and enjoy Billy more. But got to give Jake credit for getting in that ring. Brave lad. Good luck to him. Yeah. I can't say that other than what you've said, mate, because you're getting in there with a machine. Like, AJ might not be at the tippity top of his game at the minute, but we've seen what he did to Ngannou, and Ngannou's been in the fight game his entire life, and can take a punch, and AJ sparked him out. And Jake Paul ain't Francis Ngannou physically or in any other way, so Yeah, it's still mad to me that this is happening. Also, while we're talking about boxing, really quickly, I want to just pay homage to Terence Crawford. Bud Crawford finally uh, came out and retired, 38 years of age, and for me, unquestionably, the greatest of this generation. For me, I know others will have their own take, but the man is a three division undisputed world champion. The man has won titles from £135 up to £168. The man retires with a record of 42-0. And he's put on a clinic after a clinic. He fought Errol Spence Jr. It was supposed to be a 50-50 fight. He wiped the floor with him. He goes in there and beats Saul Canelo Alvarez with ease. I remember seeing him fighting Ricky Burns all the way back in the day. And I didn't have a clue who Terence Crawford was before that night, but I certainly knew who the hell he was after that night. Himself and Alexander Usyk of this generation are just fighters that I am incredibly blessed and happy to have had in this generation. Beterbiev, Bivol, another two greats. Obviously, Floyd Mayweather, probably the greatest defensive fighter in the history of boxing, on the back foot, incredible. But I just wanted to mention that because you guys know how much of a boxing fan I am. And for Bud Crawford to have retired this week, 38 years of age, 42 fights unbeaten, it's just astounding. Absolutely astounding. I think a five weight division world champion, you know, the only man in the modern era to be undisputed in three weight divisions. Just incredible stuff. Epic. I'll remember this upbeat in the summer window forever. Same. I've never had a happier transfer window than the one that we had, mate. Never ever have I felt like that about transfers. L Stew said, me and my missus love Usyk. We cheer him against British fighters. What a guy. It's funny. Compilations class as well. I'm very feel. I'm kind of honoured to have said that I was there when Usyk won his first ever heavyweight title. When he fought Anthony Joshua at Spurs Stadium. Myself and Connor went over to it. It was, you know, just as things were opening back up after COVID. And look, I remember Usyk all the way back from his days as a cruiserweight when he won the Muhammad Ali trophy. But to see him that night just completely outdo AJ, he's incredible. And as you said, an incredible human being as well. Yeah, Usyk is just brilliant. My wife loves him as well. Craig, did I ever get to see Andre the Giant in the ring? No, I didn't actually. In the few wrestling events I've gone to, I didn't. I got to see the $1 Million Man, Jake the Snake, Macho Man, I believe, British Bulldog, Davey Boy Smith, but no, never got to see Andre the Giant. Did watch a documentary about him, which was very interesting. Craig, remember what Isak did to join us this summer? We can't give up on him so quickly. I am in no way giving up on him, bro. None. I think it just going to take a bit more time than maybe we'd hope for, but I'm not giving up on any of the boys we've brought in. Lewis Steele said, Arne Slot, when asked about the need to sign a defender in January, said, the outside world wants to believe we have unlimited money, but that's not true. You insiders know, and you're the only ones, because the outside world only talks about our spending, what we've brought in to spend. That is the way we work over here. You have to accept that in certain games during the season, you'll be short of a right full back, but we're still able to win. I fully believe in that way of working. Hey, Arne, you're full of fucking shit, bro. Have you nothing to say about the money that you were putting down to sign the centre-back at the end of the window? Has Mr. Slot forgot that all of a sudden? The fact that we were trying to be cute and getting them for a few million quid less? So don't start coming out with the poor mouth bullshit, Arne, because you're spending 7 million quid a year on wages for a player that you're freezing out. You sold how many players in the summer? Don't give us this bollocks, Arna, about unlimited money. You shit the bed not getting in Mark A in the summer. To try and rewrite history is appalling, and it should be beneath him. So again, very well and good Lewis Steele saying that, but I hope that somebody pushed back and said, hey Arna, did you forget, mate, that you were signing one in the summer? That you had 35 million quid on the table? This is the type of bullshit I'm talking about. This is why I can't get behind him. He just comes on and talks like absolute shite. This is basically John W. Henry talking and Arna's lips moving. Just fuck off with this nonsense. We need a centre-back. We need a centre-back. We need a centre-back. To say anything else is bullshit. You know we need one. You know we have the money for one. Because you tried to sign one. Oh, lads, he's actually, it's becoming an embarrassment at this point. I know people like to think we have unlimited money. But yeah, you put 35 million quid down on the table to sign a centre-back, mate. Have you forgotten about that? But did Palace pull out of that deal telling Gay and Liverpool will go ahead? Yes, but that's kind of irrelevant because Arna's talking about money. And he's talking about us not having unlimited money and a way of working. Which is absolute bollocks. Nonsense. This is why I can't get behind that crap. Because it's not credible. It's just stupidity. And this is why I said, do the journalists push back on this? Because anybody with half a brain knows that we tried to sign a centre-back and the money was there for a centre-back. Yeah, I don't know. It's just mad. Biggie Mall said, supporting Liverpool is a proverbial roller coaster, but this year certainly being the big one. Yeah, there's been ups and downs, all right, mate. And hopefully it finishes with an up because there's still plenty of the season to play out. And you never know. If we get it all right, old big ears, still a possibility. Will I watch the AFCON? It's football, yeah. I probably will. Yeah, I'm sure I'll zone in and out of it and watch a few bits here or there, but yeah, I'm sure I will. Right, ladies and gents, I'm going to say goodnight and I'm going to go grab a bite to eat, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Now, remember, if you think you can beat me, don't forget, they're my picks on the screen right there now for Big Up. Scan that QR code and that will bring you across. If you think that you can outdo me, well, have a pop and we will see you tomorrow on match day. Until then, don't forget, we'll be starting our coverage from 4:15 p.m. tomorrow. We're going to have our watch along, our match reaction, player ratings video, and then after that, we're going to record an episode of the Anfield Agenda podcast with myself, Connor, and Chris, and that will be going out tomorrow night as well. If I can ask you one favour before you head off, please do hit that like button for me. And if you haven't subscribed, please do. Really do appreciate your support, and I'll catch up with you guys tomorrow. Until then, have a lovely Friday night, and we'll see you tomorrow where hopefully the Reds can get 3 points.